about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
For just a few days to go to a conference, and wow, I gotta tell you, so much is happening. Welcome back to the Dr. Daliah Show. Yeah, I did take a day off of the show. I was going through withdrawal. I don't do well taking off work. I still saw patients and I still kind of worked relatively, but wow, look at this. It's the Gulf of America now. The Gulf of Mexico will be renamed the Gulf of America to Americans. To Mexico, it'll still be the Gulf of Mexico. To the rest of the world, it'll be both Gulf of America and Gulf of Mexico. But I don't know if you heard, Google Maps is going to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. So once Google Maps does it, I guess it's official. Wow. So they are going to comply with President Donald Trump's executive action that renamed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. The name change will appear soon on Google Maps. In a post on X, Google explained that it is a long-standing practice of applying name changes when they have been updated in official government sources. The name will be tweaked when the Geographic Names Information System, according to CNN, a government database of names and location data, is updated. Once that's updated, Google will then update their maps. Google is also going to change the name of Mount McKinley. Mount McKinley is the nation's highest peak from Denali. Former President Barack Obama renamed Mount McKinley to Denali in 2015 to honor the region's native population. But Trump wanted Mount McKinley to still be named as Mount McKinley. He says the order that Obama did was an affront to his life, his achievements, his sacrifice. And he had championed tariffs, was assassinated in an attack on our nation's value and our successes. So he wanted Mount McKinley to still remain Mount McKinley. So with his executive order, he changed that back. And so, he said it is in the national interest to promote the extraordinary heritage of our nation and ensure future generations of American citizens celebrate the legacy of our American heroes. So Trump is also directing the Gulf of America to now be the new name from Gulf of Mexico. It calls for all federal government maps and documents to reflect its renaming. Now, Google says only those of us in the United States who use Google will see the changes. Because, quote, when official names vary between countries, map users see their official local name. Everyone in the rest of the world will see both names, and that applies here too. So, I know some people are saying, does Google want to get in the middle of it? Well, if it's an executive order and it's a gulf within American border, I mean, I don't know how this works. Is it whoever owns more land affronting the Gulf? Where is there more curves? Is it supposed to be the superior, the northern, or the southern? And not superior in terms of might, in terms of superior in terms of above or below. But when you look at the length of Florida, the length of the Gulf states and Texas, and then you compare it to Mexico's border, I mean, somebody could make an argument that it should have been the Gulf of America the whole time. As far as I'm concerned, there's so much that Trump needs to do that if, this is something he wants to do and it's not going to hurt anybody, and Gulf of Mexico could call it Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America could call it Gulf of America. This is not the first time this happened, where countries will rename their geography the way they want to. I'm fine with it. I mean, you know what? It is. It's our states have a Gulf. You have the Gulf that abuts Louisiana and Houston and Mississippi and Florida. And why can't they, why can't they enjoy that? I'll probably still be calling it Gulf of Mexico for a while because I'm really bad at changing and not like our airport is Harry Reid Airport. I still call it McCarran, or I just call it the airport. I don't usually call it necessarily the name. I'll just be like the airport. So it takes a while. But, what this kind of exemplifies is, we have a president who is working every day, whether it's Sunday, whether it's, he wasn't even president. He was already working. So this is a far contrast. In fact, I'm hearing from people in the media, even liberal people in the media, how they're kind of liking some of this because there's always something coming from the executive branch. There's always content. There's a lot of news coming out, such as I think Trump was talking about the drones, and somebody asked him in the media, do we know what these drones are? And I think he asked his assistant, I thought it was about the UFOs. It was either UFOs or drones. And he asked his assistant, Susie, can we find out what these are so I could tell them? I mean, that's something we haven't seen in a while, in a very, very long time, where the president wants to answer a media outlet's question, doesn't have the answer, and says, let's get the answer because it looks like that's what people want. There's been some controversy over the JFK files, and if that, and if that should have been released. And I understand some family members like it, some family members don't. But there's a lot of questions as to why, who assassinated JFK. And the longer this goes, the more you hear people say, well, it was LBJ because his car slowed down right before this, or it was the mafia, or it was whatever. And you hear all this back and forth. And then here we are with Trump's assassination attempt, where there's a lot of questions unknown. It was a single punk who knew how to bear crawl and had the weapons and knew how to outsmart Secret Service. The public wants to really know what the hell is going on and why are our leaders being assassinated or attempts to be assassinated. So Trump signs an executive order. Let's open this to the public. And so, interestingly, it's going to be a very interesting next few years. But wow, we have Gulf of America now. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house. including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So you're going to see a lot of news on recalls. Apparently there's been some broccoli recalled, some Coca-Cola products recalled, some salmon recalled. FDA's been busy, and we'll try to go into all of them later in the show. But definitely before you eat, look things up to see if, there's a recent recall. It seems like every day there's something. And then today we're hearing about 3 different recalls. So, when these recalls happen, it means there's either an ingredient that shouldn't be there, that doesn't have warnings on the label for those individuals who could be allergic or cannot tolerate that ingredient. There are people with lactose intolerance or celiac disease, or they need to know what they're eating, or a nut allergy. Sometimes it's because metal or shards get into the product. Sometimes it's because some people are getting sick. So recalls could happen for a variety of reasons. And so we really rely on the FDA to do their job and to be able to quickly identify if there's a problem and then notify the public. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I am kind of confused as to why, we're having so many. But years ago, there was a rash of recalls and foodborne illnesses in restaurants. And it happened when there was a move towards fresh and more eating fresh. I remember Chipotle was in the news a lot at the time. And the FDA had said that they don't have enough people. They need more funds. I mean, they were working on a how many $billion budget? I'm like, what are you talking about here? But one theory I had at the time was marijuana was starting to become legalized at an explosive level. And the work ethic, I believe, does get a little bit tempered when people have marijuana in their system. When I worked in a restaurant, I made sure everything was clean and sanitized, and so we're seeing kind of a lot of halfway type stuff being done. And when you hear of some of the recalls and some of the reasons for recalls, metal pieces, plastic pieces, whatever, you really start to scratch your head going, come on, what are people doing? Who's sleeping on the job? Now, RFK Jr. does not sound like he's going to sleep on the job. And we're also being told that he is likely to be confirmed as Health and Human Services Secretary. I believe his hearing, or his confirmation hearing, is supposed to start on Wednesday, tomorrow. And it's a highly anticipated hearing because he is promoting the Make America Healthy Again movement. And it seems like, for now, Trump's nominees are getting advanced or getting confirmed. Pete Hegseth got confirmed, Kristi Noem, and RFK Jr. was controversial in the beginning because of his stance on vaccines, controversial for some, but he had also brought up fluoride in the water, and that made people concerned that he was going to stop some of the programs for fluoride in the water. But then the Biden administration's Health and Human Services Department published a study showing overexposure to fluoride could affect a child's IQ, which is something that we have been aware of in the medical community for a while. And so if you notice, there's been less criticism or coverage on RFK Jr., especially when he is bringing up things that he believes needs to be not so much questioned, but reevaluated. He also is a huge advocate of cleaning up the preservatives and crap in our food. He's not wrong about that. When you go to Europe or you go to Israel or you go to other countries, their food isn't as bright and fluorescent and sugary. There's less sugar. There's less food additives. They know. People don't want that stuff in their food. Now, there's still preservatives and stuff. There's still junk food. People still eat junk food. But why in America is it so much more? I could see some of these candies glowing outside when I'm pumping gas inside the convenience store. They are really trying to attract kids to eat these things at the risk of their health, the sacrifice of their health and their liver and kidneys. And so RFK Jr. wants to work with the 80,000 plus employees at HHS to free the agencies from the smothering cloud of corporate capture so they could pursue their mission, quote, to make Americans once again the healthiest people on earth. And that's something that I think bipartisanly everybody could agree on. We're not the healthiest country. We're one of the heaviest. We have some of the highest diabetes rates, some of the highest cholesterol rates, some of the highest high blood pressure rates, and some of the highest cancer rates. Why is that? And people blame the healthcare system. Well, it's because we let private companies get involved with our healthcare system. We need the government to run the healthcare. I don't know if it's so much that, although our healthcare system is an absolute mess, and I definitely credit Obamacare for that one. I like the pre-existing conditions clause. I like the fact that we have physicals covered, but now people have insurance with high deductibles, so they just never use it. So nobody's going into the doctor anymore or getting their physicals. But it's what we eat. And when you look at all the crap and you compare ingredients with other countries, why are we getting these ingredients in? So RFK Jr. bringing this up, he's not the first person to bring it up, but he might be the first person in a position to actually do something. The one thing about this Trump administration is they are doing. It's not just campaign promises. They're doing. And so he might actually start to limit a bunch of the crap in our food. Now, I like less government. I'm always on the side of the less the government's involved, the better. But in this particular case, we should not be putting in harmful, risky, carcinogenic, metabolism-lowering products in foods that kids eat. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what he does. In terms of vaccines, from what I understand, RFK Jr., we have invited him to come on the show. He's limiting a lot of his interviews now, until the confirmation, and that's totally understandable. So hopefully we'll get him on soon. But in terms of vaccines, he wants there to be a database that parents and the American public can access. He wants there to be studies that we could look at. Now, I understand, there could be room for bias on which studies are up there or not. But if you're actually putting in one of these scientific databases that allow people to look at all the studies, that's going to be very, very cool. Now, you can access some of these studies on Google, but a lot of studies you can't. It's costly. You have to pay to read the articles because these publishers, they need to make money too. And so for him to allow access, which is what I'm understanding he wants to do, is huge. So if you're saying, I don't really know if there's an autism risk, you could see the studies that show it isn't linked to autism. We don't see a link with vaccines to autism. But if there are other side effects that you're concerned about, you'll be able to look these up. Now, what has been the narrative for now is, well, don't tell parents all of these side effects. Because whenever you do see a side effect, then you decide you don't want the medication. Well, if you're really of that mindset to hide, which I don't agree with, I don't think we should keep anybody out of the know, then why did the government urge that pharmaceutical companies during their minute commercial spend 45 seconds on side effects? So it's very interesting when you look at these commercials for Belsomra or any of these medications that are out there, they have to sit there and talk about all the side effects. Yet when the COVID vaccine commercials are on, you don't hear the same discussion, a discourse. Okay, it has to be equal across the board. People need to know. And another thing, that a 60-second commercial that costs a lot of money, and don't get me started on what Super Bowl is going to cost, but these 60-second commercials are costly. And to have to spend a good amount of it talking about your side effects, when the vaccines, the COVID vaccines, don't have to do the, don't have to list all the side effects either. You can't still get all the information in there. So people need to read. One concern a lot of my black patients in Mississippi and Alabama had with the COVID vaccine is they felt the original studies didn't have enough of their population in the clinical trials or the studies. And even though the African American or black population comprises at least 12.5% of the American population, in the first COVID vaccine study, there was only 7.9% represented. So, you see, these are things that I think RFK Jr. is going to help us with. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge. But it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dali, 1-877 DOC-DALI. So there's a proposal in Oklahoma that's going to require parents to provide immigration status when enrolling their students in school. Now, I'm confused. I thought that already is supposed to happen. I had to have birth certificates. I did. Oh, it must have changed. But with my kids, I had to show them the birth certificate. I had to show where they lived. It was understood that if I was going to be using a taxpayer funded program, such as the school, I had to show that they were American citizens. They were born here. But interestingly, apparently that's not the case. So parents enrolling children in Oklahoma public schools, this is, I believe, according to AP News, will be required to provide proof of their child's U.S. citizenship or legal immigration status under a proposed rule. The board voted unanimously to approve the rule aimed at helping President Donald Trump's immigration policies. Still has to be approved by the legislator and the governor. Republican State Superintendent Ryan Walters, the state's education chief, said the rule is needed to help schools gather information about where to place staff and resources. They said our rule around illegal immigration accounting is simply that it is to account for how many students of illegal immigrants are in our schools. They said the proposed rule would not prevent students without legal status from enrolling or keep them from attending school, but would require districts to keep a tally. Now, I'm sure some people are nervous about that because now their names, they're on a list and they could be found. But so we've heard over the last, I don't know how many years, that these school districts don't have enough money. They have too many kids. There's not enough resources. There's not enough teachers. And so if a child is behind, whether it's academically, whether it's with physical fitness, they're oftentimes left behind. And if we do need a little bit more, I guess, accounting on what's going on, I thought that was already being done. We're hearing that many teachers who don't speak Spanish struggle with some of the students who, where English is a second language. And so, yes, our school districts are going to want to figure out how to be able to help those children. There were some students saying, my teacher spends the whole time trying to help these kids that we're just sitting there waiting for them to catch up. And so it's a mess. It's very chaotic. And it's chaotic because rather than all of these individuals being legally here, the border was porous. And now it's kind of playing cleanup in terms of deportations. And so a U.S. Supreme Court ruling in 1982 affirmed the right of children living in the country illegally to attend public schools. And, it's not the kids' fault. If their parents snuck them across the border, and in many cases, they did that for the child's safety. They were trying to flee other conditions. We brag that we're the best country in the world. It's no wonder people want to be here. So it's not the child's fault. The child should not be lacking education. The problem is are we aware that these children need additional help? Do we have the resources to go, this is somebody who does not speak English. This is somebody who has been migrating for months and has not been in school, or might have been from a country that didn't have consistent education. So if you have an 8-year-old child, they might not be at an American third grade level. And then are schools planning for that? Do schools have, I understand we do have English as a second language classes, things like that, but do we have enough resources? And are most of the resources going to catch them up, such that we had last year these Baltimore schools where these kids weren't proficient in math and reading? American kids. So we need to figure out what we're doing here. We want to help the children, but we also need to help our children. And our schools are failing. The schools also don't have enough money. One teacher from Henderson told me, from Henderson, Nevada, that the one of the reasons why Nevada legalized marijuana is they promised voters that revenue from the sales of legalized marijuana, a good percentage of it would go to the schools. And I was told by a Henderson teacher that school only got $1,000. Okay, now I saw during COVID, while dental offices were closed and small businesses had to close, the marijuana dispensaries were open with lines out the door down the street. And really? Not $1,000 for one school? That's not enough. Where's all the revenue going? So, Trump is, making good on his promise on arrests. Now, you're going to see a lot of news going, oh my gosh, well, there's all these raids. ICE makes raids. There were raids during the Biden administration. According to Fox 5 New York, many of the ICE actions are not unusual. They said ICE averaged 311 daily arrests in the fiscal year that ended September 30th. So ICE does raid. They raid because there's, they hear that there's either criminals or illegal immigrants working. You're not supposed to be hiring illegal immigrants. I mean, this is something that isn't just new in the last 1 week of Trump's presidency. This has been something that's been going on. but the arrests are more or higher. Now, they haven't been. Still, if you look at the numbers of Trump's presidency, number one, he had fewer deportations than Obama and Biden. But one reason for that is maybe there were the border was tighter and more, so there were fewer needs to deport. But now it's going to look like he's deporting a lot because he's trying to clean up the issues that had happened. And there was even a gunfight between the cartel and a border agent this weekend. I mean, it's really gotten out of control. And we need to secure the border. And we need to make sure criminals aren't here among us. And so Fox 5 New York is talking to us about some of the immigrants that have been the undocumented immigrants or illegal immigrants that have been here. ICE reported arresting individuals last week with criminal records as well, including those from Afghanistan, Angola, Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, Nicaragua, Senegal, and Venezuela. They say a Honduran national, Franklin Osorto Cruz, was convicted of driving while intoxicated, was arrested in New York. A Jamaican national, Camaro Denver Hay, was arrested to promote sexual performance by a child under 17 and possessing sexual performance by child less than 16 years of age, possess actors to view. So pornography, child pornography. On January 22nd, ICE ERO New York City arrested Jose Roberto Rodriguez Urbina, a 22-year-old citizen of El Salvador, alleged to be MS-13 gang member. A Colombian national, Andres Orjuela Parra, was arrested in San Diego. He was convicted of sexual penetration with a foreign object on an unaware victim. In Colorado, a Mexican national, Pablo Benigno Calva Diamante, faces removal of his removal after his arrest. He has 3 DUIs. How many of our Americans have been killed by DUIs from Americans and non-Americans? So you perform DUIs and you're illegally here, you're out. Florida, nearly 40 Chinese migrants were discovered in the back of 2 separate vans in Coral Gables, Florida. And, Chinese migrants, from what I understand, it's hard to leave China. So were they planted here by China? Or did they leave and want refugee status? But if they're in a van, they're going to get deported. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So I was at a medical conference, and there was a few people who were just kind of quiet and kind of talking to themselves and just, speaking about the weather and whatever. And I like to free people up. I like to, what's the word for it? When you kind of release them from some sort of figurative bondage that they're in. And I see them just kind of, dancing around a subject, which I think is the, woke liberal subjects, because whenever you do go to these meetings, you know how the American Academy of Pediatrics supported transgender transitioning in youth, and so many of these medical organizations do lean left, and you see a lot of individuals there who don't agree with that. There was a lecture looking at maybe we should stop using gloves on patients and paper on the tables because of what it could do to climate change. And, doctors were going, what are you talking about? We need to protect the patients. And so, you see some people with disagreement. And there was somebody who was, making a comment, and I had said, look, this is how I feel. And all of a sudden, this person had such a release she exhaled and was like, oh my gosh, I've been keeping quiet this whole time. I can't believe I could talk to somebody like this. Oh my gosh. And, she's talking about how much, how frustrated she's been with the previous administration and all that. And and I'm looking at this, and somebody else, same thing. I was like, you could talk openly, there's things that, I'm noticing, and they're like, oh my gosh, yes. And you can't say anything because you're going to get canceled. And I think those days are hopefully over for now. Trust me, there's going to be another, the way democracy goes back and forth, and the way, we start to lose some of depending on who's going to be in power, we're going to feel like we're on the side that's going to be discriminated against and biased like we were previously. But, one thing, though, that I want to correct society on is to stop this as it pertains to making politics so big and important. There should be no reason why somebody's blood pressure is rising and somebody feels they have to be restrained and quiet, such that they have this euphoria or this complete release and lack of stress and anxiety because they could talk to somebody openly, still whispering, by the way, because of people around us. And it's because society wanted politics to be that big a deal. They made, this idea, there's an election and we're going to have the debate party and we're going to do this. I was watching Fox News before the election and they were like, oh, we are so excited. There's going to be election night and for the vice presidential election, and we are going to be here for coverage, and we're going to be, and I understand they're doing that because they want you to tune in. And it's like, do we really have to have debate parties? Do we really have to? But it's almost like this is now people's religion or people's sport. The Super Bowl. I love football. And Super Bowl to me is a holiday. And I know I've done that where I will turn Super Bowl Sunday into a day that probably shouldn't be getting it's a big day. It's a big. Well, look at the college conference championship, the college football championship between Ohio State and Notre Dame. That usually is a big deal, but there was an inauguration at the time, and more people were watching the inauguration. And it ended just in time, and then I think Trump spoke at the game, etc. He did a video for that. But people make these things out to be like Christmas, and it's not Christmas. Okay? It's a football game. It's an important one. I get it. Look at the cost of tickets. Tickets, I think, are starting at $6,000. Tickets are starting at $6,700 before fees for 100 level seats. This is what we're being told by the New York Post. Tens of thousands of dollars are what these seats are going to be. Yeah, and I've already asked about that. Why can't I buy a seat and then sell it 2 or 3 weeks later on one of these legal, Ticketmasters? Can you do that? I don't know, between the fees and all that, if it's worth it. But you'd think that's what somebody, is doing, because you get your $6,700 seat, and then by next week the price is going to go up to $10,000. But I don't know. I don't even have the $6,000 to buy a low level seat. So the commercials for the Super Bowl, $7 million for a 30-second commercial for Super Bowl 58. No, it's 59, I thought. Yeah, I think we're in Super Bowl 59. This is a typo with this commercial, with this ad. But interestingly, Super Bowl commercials back when Super Bowl started in 1967 were $37,500. That is crazy. But yeah, a 30-second commercial is going to be the same price as it was, I believe, in 2024 and 2023. $7 million for 30 seconds. I look at that as a doctor going, you know what that $7 million could do for a community? You could build a clinic. You could have, there's so much that money could do, but a 30-second commercial, there's going to be a lot of commercials. So Super Bowl is going to rake in a lot of money, whether it's the ticket prices, etc. But we just make things such a big deal. And I understand. We need a strong commander-in-chief. I understand how, after having Biden, yes, this election was a big deal. I get that. But we've also, turned it into such hype. Our lives will go on the day after the Super Bowl. Our lives are going on the day after the election. But the media and society want us to get frantic, just like pet rocks. I don't remember much because I was really young, but really, there was a frenzy over trying to get a rock that my husband's a little older. He said he took rocks from his backyard and he made his own pet rock. That was really, they do that. They want the consumers to buy in. And so they make something bigger than it is. Some of these movie stars, some of them are good, but others, I'm like, I saw high school plays with better acting. Some of the music, some of the concerts. I'm like, okay, I like some of their songs, but do they really have to be a god or goddess, and idolize like this? And and it's maybe it's because I'm getting older. Trust me, when I was younger, Michael Jackson, wow, I loved Michael Jackson. I thought he was amazing. And yeah, I fall into that too, where it's these are people that are stars, and you're a fan and you get crushes and all that, but Lord of the Rings, favorite movie. If I have got to go to New Zealand and go to all the filming spots of Lord of the Rings. That's just something I want to do on my bucket list, and I understand it's just a movie. And I think some of us really want to get excited about things, but society pushes that. And I'm glad I'm going to go to a Super Bowl party. Can't wait to watch Super Bowl and all that. And yes, I do love the Super Bowl. I'm kind of bored with the Chiefs. I'm sorry. I'm going to put money on the Chiefs because I've been making money on them all this time. A lot of controversy over the refs. I'm sure you've seen that with how they always get good calls and the teams against them bad calls. Roughing the passer, the person wasn't even touching Mahomes. So it's going to be interesting, but maybe let's just kind of bring down the hype. Is it really that big a deal? Really? 1-877-Daliah.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.